So next we have European Solar Manufacturing Council President Žygimantas Vaičiūnas, who will say about the breakthrough of European PV manufacturing. When? Probably now. And how?
Good afternoon. First of all, of course, we really appreciate that you were able to come to Lithuania in general and to SoliTek company in particular. Lithuania is well known for the fight for the energy independence and, of course, implementing creative solutions in the energy sector. But, of course, now we are suffering, as all the Europe are suffering, from the high energy prices and especially electricity prices. So before moving further, just a couple of introductory remarks. I think that all the Europe have to admit that we were too slow and we implemented too little of the PV in the recent past years. And last but not the least, we were too little creative in some of the solutions. I had a talk with Karolis Kiguolis, the next presenter, about the demand side response and all the other issues. So now we are paying the price for this slowness and the pace which was not enough in the recent past years. So the key question is now for the future, and today we are listening for the presentations, and we see a huge potential, incredibly increasing potential for the solar PV, both for the solar parks and the integrated solutions. But the key question is where the models will come from, as Radovan was pointing out before. So in my presentation, I will look at these things in principle. And of course, here in the SoliTek company, I'm working as a BOD group member of the board. And of course, I'm the policy director of the European Solar Manufacturing Council. The organization, which is in principle created 2 years ago, we have more than 40 members already now. And the target is very clear, to have as much as possible PV production here in Europe. We have to admit that this mission is not so easy, having in mind that a lot of politicians, many of the politicians, are not willing even to open the doors for the European producers and to listen to the key problems. Now we see that to some extent the Commission is already opening the doors. We have the conversations. It seems that also some other European politicians, ministers, also listen to our problems and issues. And they do hope that the PV manufacturing landscape and the ecosystem in Europe will be very different after 2 or 3 years from now. But let's start, and in this presentation, mainly I will look from the bird view perspective. What are the potential in Europe and what is necessary to be done that for such a companies like SoliTek, we would have more such a companies, and that will be growing and moving forward to ensure the competitive European PV manufacturing. So, of course, there will be 5 key questions. Of course, the first question is where we are now. And the second one, where we are planning to go. How fast we can manufacture PV in Europe, and what could be the critical mass of the PV manufacturing. What are the key factors for our success? And last but not the least, what is our role in this process? So, you already saw the slide. It is a little bit updated, but this was before the summer break, the data in May this year. And as you see, we have 2 key challenges. One challenge is that last year in Europe it was installed 26 gigawatts capacity of the PV. Later, of course, it was the updates that it was 32 because statistics are always lagging behind. And when we are looking to the numbers, we see that one challenge is that even for the PV models, we have not enough of the capacity. It is 8 gigawatts capacity. The second issue, the second problem, that all along the value chain we have the key problems, that this is just 0 point something, and this is all along the value chain. So the key question is, quo vadis Europe? Is it the right approach to the PV manufacturing? Probably not. And that's the question which we have to answer in all the EU member states together with the right regulatory framework. So what is the consequence of that? The consequence is now everybody's paying high electricity prices. And we have the consequence that we are just flowing euros from Europe, not always euros, sometimes this is also converted into the dollars, but about 8 billion euros just loss because of our incapability to produce enough of supply for the increasing demand in Europe. And in case we are just implementing this scenario for 2030, which is Europe and the European Commission now is forecasting, this deficit, this trading deficit of DP production could increase to 15 or even 20 billion euros. So this scenario, nor one of the politicians wants, but this is the first point which we have to admit, and from that perspective to see what is necessary to be done. So all the European Commission is really pointing out nice decarbonization scenarios, nice Green Deal ambitions, of course the independence from Russian gas and so on and so on. But we have a serious problem here. And of course now every politician in Europe is busy with the higher gas prices. But in such a conferences like this, we are really discussing the key facts, what is necessary to be done that PV manufacturing will be on the table of every politician in Europe. So here's just one of the examples while the ESMC and also Solar Power Europe was lobbying for the separate solar strategy. We succeeded to get this document finally, but the road was not so easy. Because we just talked with the Commission, I personally talked with the Commission like last year in April. The work program has been approved in November, and the strategy has been adopted in May this year. So you see how what is the pace of the Commission and the European Union. So for that we have to live, but we have to make all the efforts that this will be more supportive for the PV manufacturing. So in that strategy, of course, this is not something like going to the moon, but I'm just referring to the well-known Neil Armstrong phases, that this is like a small step for the EU energy independence, but one giant leap for the EU solar industry. Why it is so? This is so because in January this year, the Commission was forecasted 420 gigawatts capacity till 2030. Just after 1 month, and the reason is well known, after the 24th of February, the approach changed. And in the strategy now we have 600 gigawatts capacity. So it means that the capacity has been increased just because of one geopolitical reason. And now we have the capacities, which Radovan was mentioning, Miguel was mentioning. We have the capacities of the installation, yearly installation from 45 to 60 or even 70 gigawatts in the European Union. So that will be really a key challenge for us. And also I think it is the case that the lesson has been learned to be too much dependent on the supply chain and all the production which is coming from Asia. So, of course, there are more nice things in that strategy. Of course, talking about the rooftop installations, about the supporting frameworks for the agri-PV, and so on. And one number is very clear that for these initiatives, at least 24 billion euros will be necessary from now till 2027. Later on, we will talk about the billions and what is the essence of that, but just wanted to show that this was the first time when the Commission systemically was looking at not only the demand part, but also the PV manufacturing part. Here it is, the slide from the McKinsey company, and now with the ESMC is working with the McKinsey, and we are planning to present the study. It will be presented after 2 weeks, as the European Union Solar PV Industry Alliance will be formed. So we will need some very concrete numbers to move forward. So you see that it's in principle that the target is really incredible in the EU solar energy strategy, 600 gigawatts. So it means that till 2025 we have to install at least 60 gigawatts per year, and from 2025 at least 70 gigawatts per year. Just to remind that last year it was 26. So how fast the manufacturing capacities in Europe could be developed? And we have to admit that now we are counting this by 1, 2, 3, 5 gigawatts capacity in Europe. And this is, of course, the critical mass and the critical parts of the value chain. So in principle, Europe is moving forward to the premium segment, as the SoliTek is doing now. And this is really one of the strategies to move forward. But without the scaling of the PV manufacturing, it will not be feasible to achieve the numbers which is mentioned in the EU solar energy strategy. So the phase 2 could be that in next year, 2023, it will be, of course, best to have at least 10 to 20 gigawatts capacity. And also that will be multiple sites and emerging ecosystem here in Europe. Phase 3 could be fully competitive European supply chain, meaning that it will be the scaling effect all across the Europe. So what will be in that study? It will be we are looking at the cost difference between the Asian production and the European production, and what are the support mechanisms which are necessary. Because it is well known that the Inflation Reduction Act, which is now working in the United States, it's one of the clear measures where it will be hard to implement in Europe due to the competitiveness conditions. But we have to admit that without additional instruments, all the PV manufacturing business will be moving to United States, because it's really quite supportive system for the PV manufacturing. What I wanted to show also the capacity of the billions, how much is necessary to have the additional support to scale up these capacities. And yesterday, the European Commission President von der Leyen, in her State of the Union speech, referred to one interesting number. This is 140 billion euros, which will be the fund to leverage the current high prices of electricity in Europe. So this will be gathered from all the wind and electricity, because this is the idea to have the ceilings of 18 euro cents per kilowatt. And that fund could be used to compensate for the industries and for the individual consumers. So we are talking about 140 billion euros just for the compensation for 1 year or 1 year and a half. And we should be able to find at least 5 billion euros for the PV manufacturing. So these numbers we will bring together, and we will be moving to the Commission to talk with the different DGs. But we have to admit one fact, that one of our key targets was quite successful, that now the European Commission will be creating this EU Solar PV Industry Alliance, which will be officially launched in November. But now the Commission is starting the work. But the key question is that now it's easier for the industry to communicate, because the machinery in the European Commission, we have very different DGs, very different levels. So even to the simple solution, you have to meet at least 20 persons in Brussels to have the decision proposed, not made, but proposed. So this solar industry value industrial alliance will be really supportive for us, because we will have one window to talk with the Commission. that will be solving a lot of issues for us, for the manufacturing industry. So this is just a question how and where the European Union invested in the recent years. And we see really large investments in the R&D. As Radovan was mentioning, really a good example that this was the first points while the PV manufacturing capacities has been created in Europe. We have green color also for the strategic autonomy and technological sovereignty in 2021, a new industrial strategy, also 2022. Also, we have large demand and specific needs for the solar installations. And here I'm referring to the same solar energy strategy, which is referring to the huge future for the solar PV industry. What we are lagging for? We are lagging for the financial capital costs and also operational costs. It means that we have to solve this issue. And the scheme is very simple. Later on, I will show the numbers, but in case there will be a possibility for the long-term and cheap money to borrow, there will be a game changer for all the PV manufacturing in Europe. And of course, the legacy of that we have not a critical mass of the PV manufacturing capacities in Europe to be enough competitive and to be in that market to compete globally. Last but not least, of course, we have moderate, polysilicon, small wafer cells and glass production. But this is also connected with the same circle because there are no critical mass, there are no demand, no supply in Europe. So it seems that not so much should be done to change the landscape and to change the ecosystem, but it should be done as soon as possible, as fast as possible. So here are some of the factors for our success, and we have really successfully pointed out that it's a good point, a good start that the European Commission already prepared that solar strategy. It's a good point that Solar Industry Alliance will be starting the work. We would like to have this earlier, faster, but it seems that it will be starting the work right now. In September, Commission is planning to approve all the necessary procedures. And it will be the three main elements of that alliance. So one of them will be identifying manufacturing scale-up bottlenecks and also provide recommendations not only for the Commission but also for the Member States. The second thing is facilitate access to finance, the thing which I was mentioning before, and also how to establish the commercialization pathways for the R&D production here in Europe. Last but not least, the third point, it will provide the framework for the offtake solutions between the producers and the buyers. This is one of the elements which could be simply implemented without the recreation or without changing of the EU competition rules, but this will be very important for the industry to know what is the demand, and not only to know the theoretical demand, but to have really clear contracts for 2 or 3 years and so on. And of course, there will be some more software things about the circularity, recyclability skills, and so on. The next question is, can we have the appropriate PV manufacturing capacities without clear target? Absolutely not. On that, we are striving with the Commission to have the number in this Solar Strategy Alliance, and it seems that our strategy is successful. Before, the Commission was not talking about the concrete targets for the PV manufacturing. It was the targets for the deployment, but not for the manufacturing. Now it is included that in 2025 we have to have the target for 30 gigawatts capacity. And then for 2030, we have sent the proposal that it should be between 60 and 80, at least. This should be the target for the European Union. You may be smiling that it is too big. It's it's really ambitious, but not realistic. I do expect that this will be the same smile as this was smile from the SoliTek bifacial panels like 3 years ago, and that now this is the trend. So we are expecting that these numbers will be included into the strategy and into this solar PV industry alliance terms of references, because it is strategically important. Afterwards, from the industry perspective, we can go to the Commission and to the member states to raise the number and to ask for the incentives. That's why this is very strategically important. I do hope that soon we will have these numbers included. Of course, when it will be included, it should be loudly represented by the industry, the key players which are planning to do the business, PV manufacturing business in Europe. And of course, financially supported by the financial institutions. So what are the realistic commitments that the PV manufacturing community is prepared to take over? You see the numbers in 2023, 20 gigawatts, in 2027, additional 14 gigawatts, and 2030, 26 gigawatts in addition. So to sum up, we have 60 gigawatts already prepared till 2030. You may ask from where these are the numbers. These are the numbers from our members, only from the ESMC members. We made the questionnaire with the presumption, in case there would be the possibility to borrow finance for 1% interest rates for 7 or 10 years, what will be your strategy? So this was the answer. Of course, it is the general numbers, not to the particular companies, but the message is clear. The European PV manufacturing industry is prepared to move forward, and the only issue is the cost of the capital. So what are the key deliverables for the EU PV manufacturing renaissance to be a reality? As I was referring to the financing, we are calculating that between 3 and 5 billion euros additional support will be necessary to create attractive loan system. And of course, it will be the key message and key instrument to launch the PV manufacturing in Europe as soon as possible. Of course, secure demand. This is the offtake agreements between the producers, suppliers, and the final off-takers. This instrument will be the part of the agenda of this solar PV industry alliance. And we do hope that this mechanism could be quite a creative one, but it will be really competitive for the European Union producers. And then, last but not the least, innovations for the competitiveness. This is the question that in the ESMC, we have initiated the project of common European interest for the PV. This is so-called PVI PCI framework, in which we are targeting to have the support for the industry. You know the very strict rules, the competition rules in the European Union. So this is the instrument. This is, of course, not the silver bullet, because it will not solve all the challenges. But in addition, with the two mentioned before, it could really ensure the long-term competitiveness for the European PV manufacturers. And here, of course, the same slide from the PVI PCI framework. Now we have 59 members on board. We have created 6 projects already. So they are moving forward and they are developing. Before, like at the end of the last year, even the Commission was quite skeptical about this initiative. But now it's included in the EU solar strategy. And this is clearly set, black on white in the paper, in the electronic version, that the European Commission will support the member states' effort to pursue the PVI PCI for the innovative solutions. So that's the clear message to the member states. We're glad to hear that now we have 6 member states on board. We are working with such members like Germany, France, Netherlands, and it seems that they are now more supportive than it was before. We do hope that they will have these members on board quite soon, and we will be able to pre-notify these projects to the European Commission. It depends on every state regulations, but there is a possibility, once the pre-notification is done, to start moving with the projects. And then the only question is that the preparation of the national governments to finance the projects. And afterwards, when the Commission is just clearing the state aid procedures, then this is retroactively approving these financial resources which has been done for this project. So this is not an easy way to get the support, but this is the way how we can ensure the competitiveness for the PV manufacturing industry from the long-term perspective. And here, of course, are the some of the projects. You see the financial part of that. Of course, this is the preliminary calculations as the projects are moving forward and they are more concrete. So we have, in principle, only in the PCI portfolio, 35 gigawatts capacity innovative solutions. The total capex is 3.3 billion euros, and the expected support or the funding gap, this is about 1 billion euros. So this is, in principle, this is a peanuts in case we are comparing with such a packages like the leverage package which has been proposed yesterday of 140 billion euros across the European Union. So, last but not least, what is our role in that process? It's really should be a framework solution. It cannot be just one solution which could be solving all the issues or all the challenges for the industry. Of course, it is not an easy task, but worth to be taken. And here I'm mentioning some of them. That, of course, industrial actors support and to believe in this solar PV industry alliance. Very concrete proposals. Sometimes maybe tough proposals, but concrete proposals that the Commission will be moving forward and also proposing this for the member states. I should say that we also have to form the PV offtake alliances. Nobody is just making obstacles for us to do that. This is feasible, but it depends on the market situation. It depends how far we are prepared to move and to take this step forward. Eco-design and energy labeling, it's always the question which is in the Commission agenda. We have to admit that after 1 year work, still the proposals will be just the next year, in March or April next year. This will be also helping the European PV manufacturing industry, but its timing, of course, is of the essence. Also together with this, I think the forced labor issue is one of the critical elements. In case we are counting European models, the models which has been sold to European market, in every second model, you can find the footprint of the forced labor. And we are really congratulating the initiatives like of the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, that they will not support the projects financially, they will not give the loans for the projects in which we implemented with the models which has been produced with the forced labor. Of course, it is a challenge to make the clear examples and so on, but it should be the strategy that the producer should make the certificates that this has been produced without the forced labor. And we do expect that other financial institutions like the European Investment Bank also will be moving to the same path, and also then the member states to follow. Of course, educated political stakeholders, the issue on which we have to take care and of course to invest our attention. I was personally surprised that politicians, ministers, vice ministers, and some middle-level people was thinking that this fight is already done, that all the PV production should be going from Asia, from China, and we have just to live with that. So this is the general approach in Europe, and we have to change that. But we can change only with your views, with your approaches, with your explanations. That's the only thing what we can do from the industry perspective. And of course, educated consumers. We have a lot of examples when we have to present that the European produced production, PV models are better for them, just for natural reasons. And consumers also are listening for that. This is especially in the current days when the payback period of the solar models, of the solar solutions are so fast. they are listening to this, and of course we have very good examples as a SoliTek company now. We have expansion of the solar installations all across the Lithuania, and the Lithuanian models are really treated on the right manner. And last but not the least, branding produced in EU solar PV models. This is the thing on which the PV companies, PV manufacturing companies should work shoulder to shoulder, and also to create some soft things which is not always dedicated to the financial support mechanism, but this should be like a branding that we have the European production, which is not in a worst quality situation, but it is better from the longer term perspective. So that would be like a summary of the key points, but the key message is of course that this way, long way, will not be easy, but this is the only opportunity for Europe to realize the current situation. And of course that's also the lesson which has been learned, that Europe was too slow of implementing the PV deployment. Now we cannot let us to be too slow while taking care of our PV manufacturing business. And I do hope that SoliTek will be driving this force further. In any case, I believe that SoliTek will survive because this is really a resistant company. But with such elements, we can have more capacities and we can have more European production here in Lithuania, in Central Eastern and Western Europe. So this is my wish for the future, and we do hope that this future will be coming quite soon. Thank you very much.
So the bright future lays ahead of us. Any questions?
Thank you very much, Žygimantas. So I must say I'm a big Lithuanian fan, and not only because of SoliTek, this is I told many times, but also because of Lithuanian politics. And when I was here in 2019, I was very surprised how young the politicians here are. You were the Minister for Energy, and so thank you very much for doing this. You are the right man at the right place at the moment, doing work for European Solar Manufacturing Council, and I think that we can be successful. And I'm talking to the German government. Yesterday we had some quite intensive talks also about the PV IPCEI, and they still did not understand the importance of this, but I'm sure that they will, because we have continuous talks with now Minister Habeck, who is now also the young generation. So after a couple of years of Angela Merkel, who was a good politician, but actually the problem was that there were like old people in the positions having quite good connections to the oil industry, gas industry, as we all know. And now everything is changed, and now the mindset is different. Unfortunately, as I said, it's going too slow. My question would be, you as experienced politician, what do you think would be the most important thing to accelerate? I mean, we are in a good process now, but still it's going somehow still too slow. US, they just brought very good regulation on the market, and as you said, we have to be careful now that not all the investment will be done in US now. So what do you think, how can we even accelerate? And I know you are doing a very good job, but somehow, yes, what will be answered to that? And the other question, who is in this PV manufacturing alliance? Is there a call for membership, or will that be selected by the leading people there?
Yes, thank you for the question. And yes, for the PV manufacturing, we have to be as fast as Ferrari. No, that's or Tesla in that case, yes, because this is the only issue how we can be competitive. And speaking very practically, this is connected with the second question. The EU Solar PV Industry Alliance, this is the only channel now for us to transmit the key detailed proposals. How it will be structured, this is in principle, of course, now it's informal work is taking place, but I do see that the main associations will be on the table, meaning European Solar Manufacturing Council, meaning Solar Power Europe, and InnoEnergy probably. So that will be the core, these three organizations, as they are representing the manufacturing part of the industry. And the key issue is that like we have to propose not only the theoretical things, but also to make the analysis, what should be done and what could be the commitment from the industry side. So that's why with the McKinsey company we are doing this study to present very clear numbers and to show what are the price gaps between the Asian production and European production. I mean, not from the concrete company perspective, but on the general view. And then also to see how long these instruments could be competitive. Because you know very well also from the German perspective that the issue is that once the politicians even believe that we can be competitive, the next question is how long we can be competitive. So that's the two quick questions which we have to answer in the Solar PV Industry Alliance. And you're absolutely right that the timing is like next 6-8 months for us to take decisions on the European Union level. As I said, one of the good scenarios, one of the good points is that now we will have the body in the Commission, and the Commission will be participating in all these formations, in the steering committee of this Solar PV Industry Alliance, in the project groups and so on. So in principle, it will be one clear opinion from the Commission. Now we have, and we are struggling with that, we have different positions of the DG Energy. Once we have the support from DG Energy, DG Grow, then moving to the DG Competition, we have the support from the political level, but we have no support from the middle level. So that was all the time the was challenge for us. So I do believe that Commission also understands this very well, that to have one voice from the Commission side, it will be more productive also to agree on the key instruments, what we have to do in the forthcoming future. But as I said before, the key is facts, just to show also, to compare what are the others are doing, and we have to be not more saint than the Pope, how to say that. We have to think about the creative solutions, because in case we will be always thinking about the current frameworks that it doesn't allow us to do nothing, we will be stopping at the same point. So I do believe that this Solar PV Industry Alliance will be turning the things on a different manner. And that of course will be also the cooperation between the Kadri Simpson, between Breton, and also maybe one more vice president to be included. So it means that it will be a push from also high level, and I do believe that it could be a good experience that we can be moving forward as the battery alliance has been formed. There were some lessons learned, not all the best things also there was moving. But I do think that Solar PV Industry Alliance could be more productive in that sense. So a lot of wish to this alliance, and I do expect that till the end of the year we can propose very concrete elements to the Commission, and that could be implemented as soon as possible. Thank you.
Any more?
Hi, my name is Murat. I'm from BSTG from the Netherlands. My question is, do you expect to have an MIP again in Europe? That's what.
MIP? No, I don't believe that it could be implemented quite soon, because it was the lesson learned from the past. And the issue is that, as I said, it cannot be one strong solution which could be changing the landscape. And as you saw, the capacities which should be implemented in Europe quite soon is too high that we can think or even thought about such instruments.
That's it.